Good morning, friends. India is in various multinational forums. Uh, it is strengthening its political clout everywhere. It's gaining momentum as a force to reckon. Um, like China, India is the future player in the world. But at the moment, we are thinking about Indian rupee, whether Indian rupee can be the world currency that the world is looking for as an alternative to US dollar, because US dollar, uh, the governments think US dollar is always gaining in strength, that is depriving the developing countries and other countries always in a stress. Is it really the US dollar has got strength based on its real strength derived from its volume or its consistency? It's because of the government policies or because it's free, really free, freely tradable currency. All those things countries are debating. In that scenario, there's a BRICS coming, and the BRICS currency, they're coining, they're thinking about introducing a BRICS currency like euro currency or something. So the topmost currency preferable at the moment by everybody in the world is US dollar. They build up some assets based on US. So, but in US democracy is such that in a debate, in a tug of war between the parties, the US economy can come to a standstill as debt ceiling limit is not, they introduced a debt ceiling limit. They just force the government to be on hold, or they just don't want to. In a moment, the US government can come to a standstill. That kind of uh, pendulum is always on top of US government. So there can there be, is it posed as a transactional currency for the world? So all these debates are going in and around the world in all countries. When during the wartime now, with Russia fighting in Ukraine, the sanctions uh, imposed upon Russia. So at that time, China and India took up the opportunity to grab whatever oil Russia can uh, give. So the Russia hitherto were giving the oil to Europe and other countries, but because of the sanction, they can't send those oil there. So they were looking for alternative, and they found India as a um, country that can grab whatever oil they could supply. Before that, uh, whether Indian currency is really an international currency now. So we are talking about BRICS coining, thinking about a newer currency to be introduced. But is it, first of all, if this country is free, then only mechanism can take place. We just look at whether Indian currency is truly on par It's not the value I'm talking about. It's like freely tradable currency or not. It all started, um, it could have been in 1960s. I just think about 1960s. Uh, at that time, the Indian currency was so good. Uh, some countries like neighboring countries, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and even Malaysia, they even they traded everything in their country with rupees. So they used rupee as a international currency, like we are using US dollar. So that kind of a uh, trust was there in Indian rupees at that time. But India couldn't capitalize on that because of one thing, fear. India had a fear. It could have, for the Indian currency to become a global economy, it should have global acceptance. But now, what is it? Why they didn't uh, took up that opportunity is because India thinks it's volatile. If using as a rupee for bilateral trade, uh, it can. There is a fear of it, the capital outflow, sudden capital inflow and outflow that makes India so vulnerable about foreign currency. That's why India on trade capital account, India does not allow full capital account convertibility. Its currency cannot be freely exchanged with other currencies. One cannot even take more than X or Y amount, maybe 250,000 out of India without RBI approval. The reasons are the fear that short-term mass exodus of capital and massive exchange rate volatility. With at the time, India faced significant current and capital account deficits in foreign exchange. That fear of flight of capital in India still is running very high. That's why India always traditionally kept a lid on the rupee convertibility. And while we can push for the rupee's acceptance in international trade, we have to do a lot more groundwork to make the rupee a global currency. This is the ground reality. Even the competition, even we are not even talking about the competition. It's not a currency that is freely exchangeable. It's not so about other currencies. US dollar, you can do anything. Even China has liberalized its, uh, although it has got a lid on the exchange value, they manage the value, uh, but it's freely tradable. So even to make a global currency among the Asian countries, China stands on top, and it is easily possible immediately, but Indian rupee it's not possible. Uh, so the trade wise, second thing, if India finds a way to do that, so what happened? India, they compare this US dollar is accounting for 88% of the turnover of the world. Europe, 31%. Yen 17%, pound sterling 13%. Where India stands is average share in the total foreign exchange market turnover is just 1.6%. Around that, it could be more now. So did India lose the opportunities to make it a global currency by its fear of mass a massive exchange rate volatility and exodus of capital. Uh, yes, I mean, onlookers and they say the successive governments, whether it's Congress government or BJP government, they they are very uh, suspectful about making Indian rupee as a foreign currency. They should have slowly done that, but the current government did a little bit towards that. It's appreciated, uh, but it's in a very smaller circle. The RBI and the center nudged Indian banks to open some special rupee pass-through accounts of banks from Russia, UAE, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, uh, but there are no transaction in those. And India was buying Russian oil in dollar terms even when those were there, but only because of the sanction at that time, India jumped in, and so this is a test case scenario where India had created a bilateral agreement for rupee and ruble trade. So the world was watching how it is going, because it can open up the convertibility factor. It is a test case where India can test whether this bilateral trade can be a precursor for uh, making rupee open, convertible in capital accounts, everything. But it turns out Russia is complaining. So cheaper oil, India is getting cheaper oil, but even to get the cheaper oil, India takes advantage of the scenario where Russia is forced to sell to India and China because there is trade sanction. Even at that time, India is not coming forward uh, as normal trade. So if they are giving in US dollar, that will be a breach of so many protocol, I mean, the sanctions. So India said, we pay you in Indian rupees. Russia has to accept it. It's a godsend opportunity for both. But what it turns out is every month, $1 billion or $2 billion Indian rupee account, capital account or current account is accumulating, that Russia can't use it. So Russia says, I can't buy anything from you, India, with this money. You don't have anything that we can buy from you. So that is a plight of the rupee rupee account. Some Bloomberg economists, they calculate an estimated 147 billion in net foreign assets built up abroad over the course of 2022. So Indian rupee, if you have a bilateral trade agreement with Indian rupee with some other currency and you build upon like that, so the advanced countries, they say they don't have anything to buy from you for that kind of amount. So unless so many other avenues are improved upon, not only so they can't say to China like that. They have something or the other to buy from China. Russia found out uh, the ruble and renminbi, so they can use it clearly. They don't have a balance of trade in that skewed fashion. 147 billion trade deficit in the first quarter of this trade is 14.7 billion with Russia in one quarter. That means over the years it will accumulate, and Russia has to buy something from India post. Otherwise, it will say you have to pay it in US dollar or some currency. Uh, so friends, whatever we are talking about, whatever we are thinking, India, India is manufacturing this, that, that. So Indian products and goods have to come up a lot, and it has to make a leap forward like a tiger or something, so that the Indian currency can be freely tradable. The other way is boldly open up capital account, everything, and just see what the marketplace. If India has got that kind of, attitude, the younger attitude, I'll do. My currency is uh, not to be undermined. So it is on par with anybody. That kind of mindset has not come to any Indian government. And whatever they talk to local people is different. Whatever they talk to the international countries, they undermine Indian economy. They say we are afraid of opening up. You may flood us because we don't have the product or service to exchange for whatever you are giving. This is the state of affairs, friends. For this to change, neither of the government, neither of the opposition or the ruling has got the guts to open up Indian economy. Uh, Now that the uh, petrol is cheaper, everything is cheaper, they should have tried it in a little bit manner, not like bilateral trade. At least they have to uh, free up so many other things to make it a totally uh, convertible currency. The ceiling on rupee, people carrying rupee abroad, it's laughable stuff. Talk even today. No other country is doing like that. So they have to retrospect, and then only if they plan now, probably in 10 or 20 years, Indian currency would be very strong. But you have to give up your short-sighted thinking. You have to think long. So we'll meet later. Thank you for listening.